Well, given that a hell of a lot of you seem to like my ranking of the Zomboss battles, I thought I'd try and capitalise on that by ranking every world's Gargantua battle. What defines a Gargantua battle, you ask? Well, good point given how the concept has dwindled over time, because back in the day, these were important levels to obtain keys to unlock other worlds. Hell, in the early days they pretty much were the boss battles. Then from Big Wave Beach onwards they started introducing Gargantuars before these levels, and changed the progression system twice and made it worse both times. So these just seem like ordinary levels now, but hey, they've got a fancy skull to mark them, so they must have something going for them, right? So yeah, here's a ranking of the massive attack in every world from easiest to hardest to beat, in my opinion of course. I'm Gold Ninja Vlogspot, let's go. The easiest Gargantua battle is Ancient Egypt. Pretty predictable given this level is incredibly easy. Unless you're Vile Hyperion, who use this level as evidence that this game is pay to win. Hashtag get good. Granted, when I first played the game I thought it was a bit harsh to have a Gargantua stage this early, but honestly, they give you all the tools you need, and despite the fact it got moved to the 6th level as opposed to the 8th one, over time it's become so easy they might as well be blowing your nose for you at this point. Look no further than the fact it's the only one you get lawnmowers in. It's essentially the tutorial stage for future Gargantua stages. The only difficult aspect of this level is that, besides Potato Mine, there's no big damage dealers for the Gargs, so your best bet is to boost Bloomerangs, but with enough iceberg lettuces and walnuts, this should be a breeze. Number 10 is Lost City. This has a somewhat unique structure. As opposed to Gargantuars in both the flags, there are 3 flags, but the Garg doesn't rear his ugly Swede until the end of the second one, which is quickly followed by the final flag, which features one in every lane. Sounds pretty tricky, right? Oh wait, you get this guy to use against them, making the fight easier than peeling an orange. And if you're low on cherry bombs, well, you get lava guavas too. And the Red Stinger's plant food is great for handling Gargs. The only real nuisance of this level, beside the number of flying threats, is the fact you're recommended to use 2 rows with Red Stingers and Ackies, but due to the mechanics of Red Stingers, they get weaker if they're planted past the 3rd column. But hey, not even the iconic duo of Excavator and Parasol zombies can get in your way. And yes, I'm using this image again and collecting all your tears to provide water for my goldfish, which doesn't even exist. Going into single digits now, and up next is Pirate Seas. This boss stage may have some pretty weak offensive plants, Colonel Polt and Snapdragon, but it's one where I came up with a particular strategy for that and then just ran with that. Setting Snapdragons up so they can deal with the 2 plankless lanes, boosting Colonel Polts at the start of every wave to sort out the raiding parties and seagulls, and of course Snapdragon's plant food absolutely craps on Gargs. The biggest challenge to this level is that you can't plant potato mines on planks. This is why I plant the Snapdragons far back. Spiderweeds are very useful too, 1 to easily deal with barrel rollers, and 2 because if a Gargantua is closing in on your house, then you can plant one at the back and boost it in order to drag the Garg back to the beginning. Overall, it seems intimidating, but it's pretty easy to overcome. 8 is Frostbite Caves. The first battle to lack walnuts, this boss fight is the polar opposite of Pirate Seas in a way. While in that fight I use pretty much the same arrangement every time. In this fight it's almost completely random due to the oddball placement of the slider tiles. And speaking of random, the Peter and Spikeweed strolled along to join this fight, because Lord no they weren't feeling generous enough to give us the fire pea shooter in this. The slider tiles mean that the density of some lanes will be greater than others, but you can cut them off with charred guards or use Spikeweeds as traps for when they are pushed along. The other challenge is the fact that Sloth Gargantuars throw not 1, not 2, not 4, but 3 imps. This doesn't sound too difficult given the plants can dispatch the imps quite quickly, but the slider tiles can move them all over the place. Another slightly tricky aspect of this battle is that you get no instant kill plants, and with blockhead zombies present, your best bet is to plant feed repeaters. Also, the game never giving you hot potatoes when they're needed. Number 7 is Far Future. The difficulty of this level is instantly raised just by virtue of the fact that Gargantua Prime is significantly harder than most other Gargantuas since his laser attack can take out plants at range. Sure, he's slower, but his range compensates for that, as well as the fact that he always crushes plants twice, so boosting a walnut won't stall him nearly as much as it does for every other Gargantua. Also, EMP isn't introduced yet, so you're not given him to use. Fortunately, the plants are pretty powerful. You get laser beans, citrons and snapdragons, the latter of which can be used on power tiles to double its plant food effect for a devastating blow. Unfortunately, the game doesn't give you citrons nearly as much as it would ideally, so you might have to blow your plant food on laser beans if robocones are closing in. Also, you can't one-shot guards with citrons plant food like you could back in the glory days. Will also make things more difficult with the amount of bot swarms throughout the level. 6 is Wild West. Oh, if you're new to the game, believe me, this was torture back in the old days, back when it had this tagline. There are no boosting plants back then, and they gave a lot less plant food, so the level's a bit less painful now. That being said, it's still a bit of a slog. First of all, the Spud Mine is replaced by the Chili Bean, which sounds great, but means you can't use an instant kill on a Gargantua. All the Bean can really do is stun the guards with his gas, which is very situational. Also, you get a lot of poncho zombies, and nearly all of them have metal grades, so set your pea pods up, and split peas for the prospectors. The easiest way to kill the Gargs is to give a pea pod plant food twice, and with 2 of the damn things at the end, this vehemently requires you to have enough plant food free. Another thing you can somewhat exploit is the minecarts. Putting a plant, preferably a walnut, on one and constantly baiting the Garg into smashing it is a great way to stall them. In conclusion, it may have only reached the midpoint of this list, but once upon a time, this was the hardest one, bar none. Number 5 is Big Wave Beach. Like Wild West, this stage has become exponentially easier over time, especially in recent times since they buffed the Chomper, to the point you don't even really need to use Tangle Kelps. Mate, Chompy Boy has those surfers in check. The levelling system also has improved Boulding Bulb's role, due to the priority mechanics. If anyone's actually got him leveled up to the point he shoots his orange bulb first, let me know because this level sounds borderline effortless that way. But overall this level is not pleasant. First of all, while you have 2 instant kills, none are effective on Gargantuars, and since Banana Launcher wasn't introduced until the second part of the world, he doesn't show up here. Boosting Boulding Bulbs will give you an edge, especially with his crowd controlling capabilities, but make sure you have enough plant food as otherwise you'll have better luck getting a baby to dribble on the fearsome crustacean Gargantua. Oh yeah, and the requirements of lily pads only make this level more aggravating. 4th place goes to Dark Ages. Despite only having 20 levels, they made sure to ramp up the difficulty in this world, given both the boss stage and Gargantua battle are tough stuff. You get some vigorous zombies, including these oxygen-nicking cretins. You get no plants with infinite range, so Fume Stream is your main tool, although at low levels even columns of them will struggle against night zombies. Also, unless you're clearing out graves or waiting to get more fumes, puff streams are more of a hindrance than anything, and they provide the jesters with projectiles to hold back. Fortunately, plant food is given at a respectable rate, and grave busters also help a lot. In fact, they're pretty important to reduce the amount of zombies that spawn in necromancy ambushes. The obvious way to kill Gargs is to boost a fume stream and then use a spud mine. But it may be hard to find space to plant the mines so they arm themselves in time, although the fumes plant food can get around this problem. But all in all, get ready to do some heavy stalling, because they're a dense bunch. Number 3 is Jurassic Marsh. Now, despite the Gargantuars in this world having increased toughness, this sounds pretty simplistic given you can charm Velociraptors and have them kick the Gargs off the map instantly. However, the Gargantuars arguably aren't the biggest threat in their own level. Fossil head zombies will take donkey's years to defeat, and then there's Jurassic Imps. They're easier to defeat than most Imps, but since these Imps move faster, they can get to your plants easily, and when paired with Raptors, can make you lose the level very early on if you can't set up a defense in time. Also, you might not even get a chance to use a charmed Raptor counter for Gargs, given other dinosaurs might be prioritised over Raptors to be charmed. Mostly the Pterodactyls, given a zombie dragged to the other side, can easily chew away your defences. And often there's 2 dinosaurs in one lane, so it's smart to charm them both. The other problematic aspect of this level are the huge packs of zombies. None of the plants are good at crowd control, especially Celery Stalker, who can take a moderate amount of damage, but if numerous zombies are eating him at once while he's attacking someone else, then he's screwed. In fact, the pairing of Primal Pea Shooter and Celery Stalker is possibly the worst combination in any Gargantua level, given the Pea Shooter will knock zombies back into eating range of the Stalker, making him utterly counterproductive. However, both of these specialise at suppressing single targets, and the final wave isn't too strenuous given 2 Primal Pea Shooters should be able to keep the bulky Garg away indefinitely. Plus you have a chance to get grave shots, which should deal with the reinforcements, but apart from this rather mild ending, the level is a complete ball ache to play. Runner-up spot goes to Neon Mixtape Tour. Speaking of battles featuring the Celery Stalker, I was actually debating about whether to put this ahead of Jurassic Marsh or not, though at least that battle featured the grave shot and the Gargantuars aren't too hard in the grand scheme of things. Same can't be said here. First of all, this one featured the most broken zombie in the game, the one that can take out 2 plants at once, regardless of how far back the second one is. It also suffers from mediocre offense since you're given Kernel Pile and Fat Beat, so like Pirate Seas, except the Fat Beat's plant food effect looks frail in comparison to Snapdragon's. On the other hand, you'll find much more utility out of the Celery Stalker this time round, given that it syncs with Kernel Pile much better than it did with Grandpa P, and the zombies aren't quite packed like sardines like they were in Jurassic Marsh. In fact, the celery is pretty much the prerequisite to defeat the Gargs, and if you're lucky they'll get stunned by the poles at the right time. You're also giving a slowing plant. Not a straight up stunning plant, because PopCap are evil like that. And no, Kernel Pile doesn't count given that's based on complete luck, can't deal with groups unless you boost him, which is probably your best bet, and there's no upgrade to increase his butter chance. Oh yeah, and you get the jams too. This at least means you don't get situations where the Gargantua doesn't get his shockwave, but then again, having your celery slapped about by MCs isn't a whole lot of fun. And right at the top is Modern Day. Obvious pick here, because it's literally just Gargantuars, specifically all the ones at the time of the world's release. Except the Dark Ages one, he got left out for some reason. And you get a huge lineup of plants to use. Unlike many of the battles below it, I think this level is actually fun to play because it's just complete chaos. And this RNG aspect is nice too, although it does mean it's almost impossible to devise a strategy for it. The biggest irritant of this level is how you initially get powerful plants, but they're replaced by much worse ones later on. Oh great, you get coconut cannons and winter melons and 5 more potato mines. Oh just kidding, here's a fat beet and a 3-peater, trollolololol. So in short, once the powerful ones get the sausage, you won't get to replant them as they don't give them out later on in the level. And yes, intensive carrot can revive them, but you'll often have to plant one of the weaker plants in place to store them. Not to mention the Gargantuars still throw in, so these will need to be dealt with too. All I can really suggest in this level is pray for explosives, and I cannot stress this enough, prioritise killing hair metal and prime guards first, because they can take out your plants at the back, and also have coins saved up to use power-ups, because good luck completing this without them. Feel free to flex in the comments below if you have managed this. Let me know what you thought of the list, like the video, subscribe if you're new. I'm GMVS, thanks for watching.